That was my bad.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, there's. Good morning. Good morning. How's it Yeah, morning.
Going dead?
Okay. Well.
Yeah, but I did this 2 minutes ago. And yes, yours is gonna.
You can't talk for more than 2 minutes at a time.
Yeah, yeah. Looks like mine.
Sounds intentional.
But they claim that they have better location and less compaction. $340.
Dead already.
Nick Michaels.
It's not out.
It was out.
Got put away.
You can take mine. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll roll call. We will open public hearing for the 2024 street utility project assessments. We're ready for you, Brett.
All right, everybody here for the 2024 street utility improvements assessment hearing. You have a handout. Okay. All right, so tonight's gonna be a lot like it was exactly a year ago. Last November, everybody was invited to come and discuss this improvement before the council decided to move forward. At that point, we talked about some estimated pricing and some estimates and proposed improvements. Today, we're here to talk about the improvements that were done and the actual costs of those improvements and those assessments for the parcels. I'll quickly go through this. We'll talk about the cost and then I'll open up for any questions council, staff, or the public might have. So we broke the improvement areas, or the improvement into 3 different areas. The first area, Area 1, being 4th Street North, Area 2 being Snake Alley or portions of 2nd Avenue Northeast and 5th Street Northeast. Area 3 being the Main Street alleyway, that alley between 1st Street Northeast and Center Street East. So even though we bid this as one improvement project, we did break them up into 3 distinct improvement areas. For Area 1, utility improvements, we had a replacement of the trunk water main and the trunk water utility services affected by that main replacement, reconstruction of the sanitary sewer mains, sewer services affected by those replacements and adjustments of any surface structures. So storm sewer manholes, sanitary sewer manholes, gate valves, hydrants, stuff like that. Area 2, utility improvements, we did a cast in place piping, so a CIPP sanitary sewer lining improvement. The sanitary sewer up there, we utilized the existing VCP clay sewer that's in the ground and did a fiberglass sanitary sewer liner. So your sanitary sewer mains up there are basically brand new. It's just we were able to do that above ground and going through the structures as opposed to open cutting. We also extended storm sewer piping from the catch basins within the corridor that were towards Trunk Highway 52 up that corridor on 5th to collect that low point at the intersection of 5th and 2nd. And we adjusted all the surface structures again, valves, hydrants, or valves and sanitary sewer and storm sewer structures. Area 3, we just adjusted the surface structures. There was an electric utility replacement and underground infrastructure the gas main was replaced up there too within the alleyway. Those were done outside of this contract, before, our prime contractor took over the reconstruction of that alleyway. But again, electric utility went underground, the gas main got replaced, and they did all that work before we came in and rebuilt that alleyway. Street improvements. Area 1, 4th Street, North Improvement Corridor include approximately 2,800 feet of residential roadway, including portions that were existing aggregate surface rural section roadways. So when you go on the far west end of the project, we extended a bituminous pavement surface all the way out to the bike path, where it was gravel from that intersection of 2nd and 4th to the west. We reconstructed, or we paved that. We then reconstructed from there all the way to Trunk Highway 52 with concrete curb and gutter. So the concrete curb and gutter from that intersection of 4th and 2nd all the way over to Trunk Highway 52 by Quick Trip. We also reconstructed the other side of the road, obviously from Trunk Highway 52 out to, I guess it'd be 2nd Avenue North, with concrete curb and gutter. And then we reconstructed the rural section from 2nd Avenue North farther to the east with a little bit wider bituminous roadway and gravel shoulders there as well. We reconstructed all the roadways with a section of 3.5 inches of width, 8 inches of class 5 and 12 inches of class 2 modified aggregate base, plus geotextile fabric. So this is a roadway that literally, when the surface fails 40 years from now, after mill and overlays and maintenance improvements that the city will do over the next 40 years, if the surface fails, we can come in here, we can reclaim that aggregate and pave over top of it. We're going to have the structure of a sound roadway underneath it. You shouldn't ever have to see your roadway dug up again unless there's a utility issue. Area 2, Snake Alley. Because we didn't have to do a full utility replacement up there, the water main was good. On the sanitary sewer, we were able to do the CIPP improvement. The only area within that improvement that we had to reconstruct the roadway was where that storm sewer trenching was done. We reconstructed the roadway in that area. We reclaimed the rest of it, reshaped it, replaced curb and gutter where necessary. Obviously, where the storm sewer went in, we had to replace that curb and gutter. We replaced some deficient curb and gutter panels throughout that corridor, and then we're putting down a 3.5 inch bituminous surface there as well. Area 3, the alleyway, again, before this project's contractor took over, the city had already had the asphalt that had failed there removed. The electric utility came in there, the gas utility came in there, and then we took over and reconstructed that alleyway, again with 12 inches of 8 inches of class 5, 12 inches of class 2 modified, and 3.5 inches of bituminous surface pavement. I keep saying 3.5 inches of bituminous pavement. There is 3.5 inches over everything, with the exception the alleyway is done complete. The rest of it, we will see that last 1.5 inch surface put on in the spring of 2025 here, probably in June. If you flip it over, we have the calculated final project cost. When you look at this project, it cost just under $1,070,000 for the street improvements portion, just under $315,000 for the water main improvements, just over $206,000 for the sanitary sewer improvements, just over $75,000 for the storm sewer improvements. Water services were $96,309. Sanitary sewer service improvements were $36,440. Total project cost for this improvement was $1,796,359.70. And so that's for absolutely everything. Of that, the assessed cost is $554,342.44, while the city and utility borne costs are $1,242,017.26. The city assesses 40% of the street improvement costs back to the adjacent property owners, and they assess 100% of the water service and sanitary sewer service costs. The city pays 100% of the trunk water main, trunk storm sewer, and trunk sanitary sewer costs, and obviously covers that remaining 60% of the street costs. Bullet point 5 here is the proposed assessments. Again, there are 3 different areas: Area 1, Area 2, Area 3. They're all 3 different types of improvements. They carry different assessment rates. Area 1, for the street assessment, there's 3,835 assessable front feet within that corridor. And with the assessed project cost for that, it comes out to $84.92 per front foot. The water service, 100% of those costs go to the parcels getting that water service. Again, that's $4,377.69 per water service if you got one of those. Sanitary sewer service, $2,143.54 if you received a new sanitary sewer service. For Area 2, which is Snake Alley, that assessment, there was 1,664 assessable front feet there within that corridor. It came out to a calculated front foot assessment rate of $42.39 per front foot. In Area 3, the alleyway, there's just under 1,100 assessable front feet there, with an assessment rate of $23.20 per front foot. Back up to Area 1, the 84.92, that's $84.92 per front foot for your parcel. If you came to the public hearing a year ago here, this last November, we discussed assessments in the range of $105 to $120 per front foot. So we're down from 105 to 120 down to 80, just under 85. Same thing with Area 2. We discussed assessments of 54 to $60 a front foot, and we're at 42.39. In Area 3, we discussed 42 to $48 a front foot, and we're down to 23.20. And that's all because of the great pricing that we were able to get when we put this to public bid. We did get quite a bit of interest. I think we had 8 or 9 bids on this project, which is not typical for a community in this neighborhood. For instance, Preston, Harmony, we're a little bit farther to everywhere, and so we usually get 2 to 3 bids. We had 8 or 9 here, and we were able to get great pricing here. Proposed assessment rates assume a couple different things. Assessment of 40% of the street reconstruction project cost to the property owner. That's a 32-foot wide maximum street width. So if the city were to decide to overbuild a roadway because it's more of a commuter roadway, and they decide to go wider than 32 feet, the city would assume that extra width. We don't have any roadways here that are wider than that 32 feet. But, the city assesses 40% of that. It assesses 100% of the water and sewer service reconstruction to the property owners getting those services. The city and utility pay 100% of the trunk water main, the trunk sewer, and the trunk storm sewer costs. We do a couple different things to balance out assessments. Residential properties get a maximum residential assessment of 150 lineal feet, minimum residential assessment of 60 lineal feet. So if your front footage of your property is 50 feet, you're going to get assessed for 60. If your front frontage of your property is 200 feet, you're going to get assessed for 150. So we try not to hit those larger parcels quite as hard, and we try to make sure that everybody that's getting the benefit to that new roadway gets hit with at least 60 feet, or accounts for at least 60 feet. We also adjust corner lots and side assessments. We assess only 20% of residential frontage along the second side of the corner on dual frontage lots. So if you have a 100 by 100 foot property, or reconstructed both of them, you'll be assessed for 100 feet on the front side and 20 feet on the side, for a total of 120 feet instead of 200 feet. Commercial, industrial, public, and educational properties, maximum of assessment of 200 lineal feet, minimum of assessment of 60 lineal feet, and we assess 50% of that side frontage. So commercial, industrial, large parcels get hit a little bit harder. It's not that they're getting hit harder, they just take up a lot more space. We do have some large commercial industrial properties within this corridor, and if they were all reduced down to 150 feet, everybody's assessments would would go up drastically, just because of the length of roadway that they take up. For instance, the football field comes to mind, the city park comes to mind. There's one small statement here at the bottom. The proposed assessment total is approximately, that says 23.49. That was a typo. The actual number is 30.86 or 30.89.
And where's that at?
The bottom of your handout.
Okay.
The proposed assessment total is approximately 30.89% of the project cost of the improvement using the city's assessment methodology. The city reserves the right when levying assessments to modify or depart from this methodology to the extent the city council deems it appropriate. So
Say what page.
I went through a lot of stuff fast and I went through some numbers pretty quick. Again, if you live on 4th, your assessment is $84.92 per front foot. Water service is $4,377.69. Sewer service is $2,143.54. If you live on 5th or 2nd, your street assessment is $42.39. And if you have a property along area 3, which is the alleyway, your assessment is $23.20 per front foot. There's a couple different things that's going on tonight. So this is all part of the state statute 429, which is the state statute that allows municipalities to assess for public improvements. We've done everything up to this point following the assessment process and following the state statute. Tonight is the assessment hearing, so you guys got the public notice. You saw the public notice in the paper. You had the mailing. Tonight you're here to listen to these improvements. You're here to ask questions of me, the council, any questions that you might have. By the time the mayor closes this public hearing, if you want to appeal your assessment, and you have the right to appeal your assessment, if you want to appeal your assessment legally, you need to submit in writing to the clerk prior to the mayor closing the public hearing. All that has to be is something written on the back of a piece of paper saying, I plan to appeal my assessment. But you need to submit that in writing before the closing of this public hearing. That's the first step if you want to appeal. Your second step then, once the council approves the assessment roll, you have 30 days to serve the city a notice of your appeal, and 10 days within that, you need to file at the district court. So those are the processes that you have if you choose to appeal your assessment. But again, you need to supply the clerk in writing, or the mayor in writing, before we close this public hearing. At that, I guess we'll probably have a lot more discussion, but I'll open it up for any questions anyone has, either council, staff, or public.
Right.
Yeah.
My water shut off my house was right along the curb and now it's gone.
You're on the corner house of 4th and 2nd, correct?
Yeah, Brian came and he said it's under the concrete.
Yep.
So what
In the
happens
spring-
if my pipes burst in the winter now? They can turn the water off.
And Brian and I will be out there to get it fixed, but there are things that happen during construction. There will be a punch list. Actually, there's already a punch list of things we want the contractor to come back and address. There's also going to be a punch list that's going to be put out to the contractor in the spring. There's going to be items that they need to fix in the spring before this is all closed out. But I know of your service, Brian knows of your service, and we're going to get addressed.
Good, I had been worried. Thanks.
Yeah.
And that doesn't count as an appeal, right?
Any other questions? Yeah.
So the council won't make any decisions to amend the assessment tonight.
No, if they're gonna amend the assessment, they're gonna make that decision tonight. They would, after we close this public hearing, on the agenda is a resolution to adopt the assessment roll. If they're gonna make a choice to amend the assessment roll as I've presented, then they're gonna adopt the assessment roll as amended per their discussion tonight. So if there is gonna be any changes to this assessment roll, it's gonna be done by council.
I would say this is, during the public hearing is the time to discuss anything like that. Because when we're at that part of the new business, that's the council meeting and it's open to the public, but it's not open for discussion with the public. It's just going to be a decision we make.
Thank you, I bring up my question.
Now,
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay. I live in an area of Fifth Street that was not worked on, but I am being assessed 66-foot right-of-way access.
Yep.
The street's a 40-foot private street. And I would like to see the city go back and say, yeah, okay, we can't assess you for something we don't have. Because that Fifth Street is platted, Ingbert's addition as a 40-foot street. There is a easement across to get to my property and across our property of 66 feet. But the actual street area is only 40 feet. And I don't see why I should be paying on a 66-foot seat access for a 40-foot street that would work out 100, 200 feet away from it. That's all I would like to see is that reduction of the 40.
So my thoughts would be, and it's within the city's assessment policy that if you have access, if your access is to a municipally improved, if your only access is to a municipal roadway that's reconstructed, and you have a driveway off of that, you will be assessed for it. So that's how you're getting the assessment.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yep. Now, if the actual frontage along Fifth is 40 feet, then it comes back to, well, first it comes back to the county GIS being wrong because we have it at 66 feet, or at least the county does.
Well, there is a 66-foot easement from Second Avenue over to Jacobson addition to the east. There is an easement across our property. That might be where the confusion comes. The street, as it gets to my property, is 40 feet. There is an easement over the top of that at an angle on 66 feet. It was done at the time that they put in the sewer and water that goes across to Jacobson.
So then the next thing comes to, then per the city's assessment policy, you will be assessed for access, and our minimum assessment is 60. So you're being assessed right now within the assessment rule for 66 feet. If the council wants to make any adjustments, I think their adjustment would be from 66 feet down to 60 feet.
Well, I'm still going to say it should be adjusted down to 40 feet. That's all it's city has no fee ownership of anything more than 40 feet. I realize what the policy says, but the policy really needs to act and match what's legal in the city, doesn't it? Yeah, that's a question.
Yeah, I know we have the city attorney here, but just in this one project, I can tell you that there are multiple parcels with less than 60 feet of frontage along the roadway that are being assessed at 60 feet.
it's looking like in that section, there are at least 6 that are under 60, but being assessed for 60.
And like I said, there's parcels that are way over 150 or 200 that are being reduced to that. So we're not talking about your actual front footage, we're talking about your accessible front footage, and that's how it's calculated. There is one of these 3 improvement areas, and you could guess it, it's the alleyway, where I think only 2 properties have 60 feet. Everybody else has 23 or 10 or 15 or 18. Well, we're assessing everybody for 60 because they're all hitting that minimum. And so everybody's being treated the same. At the same time, if we really wanted to assess just on your actual front footage down there, we could do that. The assessment rate would simply triple. Does that make sense? Because our accessible front foot divided by our project costs are the same. So again, that's something the council can consider that when adopting the assessment rule. They can consider adopting what you're recommending or what their policy says.
I shouldn't be assessed at 66 feet. I think I should be assessed at 40. Whether they agree with me or not, it's going to be their decision. The
Well-
other thing I would like to see is I would like to see the city go away from assessing individual landowners on a street project and put it on the whole city. Get rid of this question of, is it 66 feet, is it 20 feet, what is it? And spread it through the whole town. Fourth Street is a perfect example of who doesn't use Fourth Street. You have the football field, the park, the golf course, Quick Trip, Solberg trailers, Solberg welding. It's such a busy street, there isn't anybody in town who doesn't use it, along with most of the people from Kentucky. This football season is a pretty good example of how busy that street is looking back. And that's a street that should be under the guidelines of, all of them, I think, should be under the guidelines of, no, we don't do assessments, we just build the street and add it into the tax rate.
I can tell you that, and this is, council can listen to this too. Their finance advisor, Mike Gubani, who helps them with their bonding and street projects and wastewater treatment plant projects and well house projects, all that kind of stuff. You can't bond in traditional ways without assessing a minimum of 20% of improvements. And so if the city did not have an assessment policy, if they did not assess to get these traditional bonds, their bonding authority simply goes down to the point where the city of Harmony would not be able to continue to do projects and make improvements unless your tax levy was so high that you can cash flow them.
Is the county's bonding structure different than a city's? Because the county doesn't do special assessments when they build the road.
County also gets municipal state aid funding, or county state aid funding. I mean, the county's
Yeah.
got a lot of different funding mechanisms that the city simply doesn't.
So the county, it's a different setup.
Yeah.
The funding.
Is there a minimum, like, in the alleyway back there, I have the shed, and there's a 15-foot wide strip of grass that's only valued at $1,600, and I'm assessed $1,300. Is there a minimum cutoff at all? Like,
There isn't. If you have a parcel ID number, it's 60 feet. And so you're not the only one. There's actually 3 property owners back there that have parcels between 15 and 10 feet. And when you have separate parcel ID numbers, that's how it lays out.
So I'm up on the end of Fourth there.
Yep.
Looks to me like I'm getting charged the same for my chunk of blacktop as they are for down the street that's getting curb and gutter.
Yep.
So there's no.
There isn't. There's 3 different assessment rates for area 1, area 2, area 3. You fall in area 1. You do have a rural section roadway still. But yeah, it's the same rate.
Obviously, it didn't cost them as much. To be honest with you, after they dropped the road down, I'm a little concerned. I thought maybe they'd have just a flat curb there or something to put in, because I'm really afraid what the snowplow is gonna do now when they come around the corner. Before, when the road was level with my yard, they maybe scrape just a little sod once in a while, which was no big deal. I lived with that fine. Now that the road's 6 inches lower than my yard is, and there's no curb there or anything for the, we'll see.
Yeah.
But the other thing about that, this isn't so much dollars, but I'm a little concerned about how much water I'm gonna have in my driveway after a good rain. Because I don't see how it's gonna flow real good.
Okay.
Flowed real good before when the road was all higher.
Yeah.
Now it's like I'm in a dip there.
And you'll, until we get the final lift of asphalt on, it'll be hard to see. But you will, it won't be a
I
pond.
don't think it's gonna, and I will say that
Yeah.
I understand that.
But no,
I just-
your assessment rate is the same as Ivan's. And Ivan got curb and gutter,
So
but
if I said, hey, I'd like to have a cement flat curb up there, is there any reason I wouldn't get it then, or being that,
yeah, we made a design decision when designing this, not to make that an urban section roadway, to keep it a rural section. Same thing as the other side of 52, all the way down by the agri service. We didn't extend the curb and gutter out there either. But you have ditches and narrow right of way and steep ditches, and to fit in a curb section, urban section in there is extremely tight without making that an extremely narrow roadway. So we stayed with a rural section there. But you're right. So, you can visibly notice you don't have curb and gutter, right?
Right.
There's other people here that can say we didn't get a driveway, right? You got a driveway improvement, they didn't get a driveway improvement. Some people got sidewalk in front of them because they had the sidewalk, and so extended that carriage walk out to the back of curb. Some people didn't get
I don't
sidewalk
know if I'd
improvement.
call
So
it a driveway improvement. They cut off the end of my driveway and dropped it down 6 inches. I don't know if that's an improvement.
every single parcel here got a different improvement in front of it, and it's not because we choose what to do at each parcel, it's because of the way the design, what was there existing, how things will work. And so we make that design work, and we don't have 50 different assessment rates for this. We have three. We chose to have three. We chose to have three areas, and that's where we're at. So yeah, your assessment rate is the same as people down the street that have curb and gutter. It's the same as people down the street that still don't have curb and gutter.
I just have a question related to Dave's request to have that reduced. Do you agree with him that maybe his frontage is less than 60?
I don't have the county GIS in front of me. We pulled 66 feet. If it is 40 feet, then it should be at 60 feet.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, if I had the county GIS in front of me, I think it would be wrong. If it's true, I think I would be wrong. I think I would have to go to the actual plat
Mhm.
of that addition to see the 40-foot.
The
Flat,
I have a copy of it. The flat is 40 feet.
The county's GIS says 66, so if that is wrong there.
That was probably something that I had some involvement in, because we drew most of the city streets in at 66 feet, because that's the standard.
Yeah.
Unless we knew for a fact that it was less. And we run into the situation on GIS that sometimes if you draw it out at 40 feet, depending upon where the houses got built, you draw it to 40 feet on top of the house, so we tried not to do that. So GIS is a visual aid. Please don't use it as a measuring point.
Right, and we typically don't. We typically go into the existing plats. Or we go into the actual legal descriptions, because a lot of them are the east 45 feet of lot 4, block whatever of this addition, and the west 15 feet of the next block, or next block.
You staked the right of way for Fifth Street, didn't you? There were stakes in the yard, and I assumed that they were the right of way, the 66 foot right of way regardless of what the width is.
That was not us, no. There were stakes in Fifth Street, there were stakes in Fifth Street for the curb, and there were stakes in Fifth Street for the storm sewer. The gas company replaced the gas in Fifth Street, and they came out and did some staking as well.
Because there were stakes way up close to houses
Gas
on the
company.
north side. That was the gas line, okay, it wasn't certain.
What they use.
Because my thought was, that they didn't use the center line of the street as the even point there, they took it all off. I was wondering about that, so.
And usually a roadway is built in the center of a right of way, but it's not.
But,
That's not always.
Was the gas put in the city's right away or not? That seemed like it was awful close to the houses.
Gas is put in city right away now.
So that's when your water or sewer goes bad, that's how far they gotta fix it. They're right away.
Water and sewer services are owned by the property owners. From the
Even on
main,
your right of
from
way.
the main to
Even
the
on your
house.
right away.
Yeah.
The city's right away. Okay.
All the way to the mains,
What's that?
all the way to the mains. Right.
From the house to the main, yeah.
Water is to the curb shut.
I don't think so. I
Yeah,
think it's
water's.
Is the water split? Ownership? Any other questions? Again, if you plan to appeal before the mayor closes the public hearing, if your time is served, again, was written on this.
I'm looking at that, Dave, if you were able to show us after the appeal that, you know, it was less than the 60, that would save you like $250. So if you want to appeal, now's the time to do it. You have to put your name on there and say, I'm appealing my assessment.
That's supposed to be 50.
If I recall the council.
Well, that's-
it was 60.
Okay. How exactly
You
are the
can't put
payments
curb and
gonna be
gutter
done?
over
Because,
it. Well,
I mean, my house is.
Excuse me, we can only have one at a time.
So I didn't talk about how this payment is done. So,
Well, I didn't.
sorry.
It's okay, that's all right. So what I was gonna say is, I need a little more clarification on payments because, well, one, there's 4 in my household, 1 income. And 2, I'm getting hammered with all 3 streams. So to me, it's a really big deal. Like, I don't know, it's a bit out of my league, I guess, in general. So I'm not sure what all options there are for payments, but I definitely need to know all of them.
And where is your house?
I'm the corner gray house, picket fence, right across from like the basketball court, like, I have all 3 streets.
Yep,
So
and
I'm get-
you're being assessed for 2 of those 3.
No, I have all 3 of them.
You have frontage on 3 of them, you're being assessed for 2 of them. So you have 3 different letters. What you have there is you have the 4th Street assessment along your frontage. You have the 4th Street assessment for about 11 feet wrapping around that corner going up 4th. Then you have, or going up 2nd, and then you have your 2nd Street assessment. Your rear property where your driveway is not calculated for assessment.
So what do I do with all the other issues that came about? Because I called 14 times up here since this whole project started. So, I mean, there are some things on my property that I still need fixed, so who's gonna fix those? And why am I getting hammered with?
First, let me address the payment. Okay, so tonight the council is going to adopt an assessment roll. Then they're going to hold that assessment roll for 30 days. And then after 30 days, they will submit that to the county. The county will then roll it over onto your taxes if it is not paid. You have the chance to come to the city and prepay your assessment if you'd like. Or you could prepay a portion of your assessment to reduce what gets rolled over onto your assessment or onto your taxes. So you can come to the city within the next 30 days and make that upfront payment if you'd like. You can also go to the county before January 1st, after it's been submitted to the county, and pay off your assessment prior to getting rolled over your taxes. If you choose not to do either one of those things, simply this assessment gets rolled over to your taxes and it gets assessed to you through your taxes over the next 15 years. And so it'll be spread out, it'll show up as a special assessment on your property taxes over the next 15 years, and I believe the rate is 5%. At any point, if you wanted to come in and pay that off, you could do that. So if you decided to roll it over onto your taxes, and 3 years from now you hit the lottery and you want to come and pay it off, you can go to the county and pay it off and be done with it, and it'll come off your property. But you can either prepay it, or you can let it go onto your taxes and you can pay in equal installments over the next 15 years if you choose to. Or you could pay it off early at any point that you choose to. As far as issues that are happening at your house, I know of one communication with Alyssa that I got, and maybe I didn't address it clearly enough. Maybe it didn't even come to you. If you have issues at your house, I know that you've had some questions about some plaster.
Yeah, plaster, my outside water spigot, I mean, the list goes on. I mean, I need somebody to fix this stuff before this stuff gets slammed on my taxes.
Okay.
I mean, that's not fair to me that I'm paying you guys, but nobody's paying attention to what I need fixed.
I would like you to submit to Alyssa a list of issues or items that you have, If there is something that we can address through the contractor, we definitely will. If it's something like your plaster, that is gonna go to the contractor's insurance. And so if you submit that claim, the city will forward it on to the contractor.
So what does she want, something in written or what? Or-
Give us something in writing, yes.
Yeah. Okay. That would be perfect, because she knows my list is long.
I have a place in my ceiling when I get separated about that much on the stairway.
Again, if you can get something to Alyssa in writing, we'll get it to the contractor, it'll be given to their insurance.
And then shouldn't they have made my driveway the same as it was before?
We've had that discussion already, right?
Well, now I practically have to park on my sidewalk, that's not. We moved it over way east west.
You live right next to each other, correct? Okay, I just want to make sure I'm talking to the right property. We've had a discussion already. I believe you have a 20 or 22 foot wide driveway, correct?
I didn't measure.
And we discussed, the reason that we pulled it a little farther to the west on the eastern side was to stay on your property and off of the property line.
I put it in with my grounds on my sidewalk.
I'm not standing in front of your property right now, but I think it lines up pretty decent with the garage door open. If I remember
It
correctly.
lines up what I do some fortune. I have grass between my sidewalk and my, where I park my car, and I on the, if I want another car to come in there. Should be the way it was.
Any other questions, either from staff, council, public? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just getting from my mom, but, I was just wondering about like the payment plan kind of thing. Is there a way to like defer, because I mean, she is over 65.
There is. If you're over the age of 65 and the city deems it a financial burden, they can defer it if you request it. If you want to pursue that, come see Alyssa, and she will provide you with an application sometime this week.
Okay.
This week or next week.
Yeah,
I will warn you that for the city to make a decision that it's a financial burden, you need to disclose all of your finances, obviously. So you'll see the application, come talk to Alyssa afterwards.
Okay, that sounds good.
And you know how the deferral works?
No, they don't.
Okay.
It's essentially a lien on your property, right? And so they'll defer the assessment until the property is sold.
So the property does pay it in the end, but the resident can avoid it, yep.
They'll just take their money right
Any other questions?
What you say the water hookup was in the sewer, I didn't catch up.
It's on the back side of the sheet. Water service is 4,377.69, and the sewer service is 2,143.54.
But this is, this is this, when I changed the. This is that gravel.
Thank you.
And so again, those costs are 100% of the sewer and water service costs. So we take the price per foot for type K 1-inch copper plus the curb stops and the courts and connect twos, and we divide it by the number of services we construct. Yeah.
You said something about I was only being assessed for 2 of the streets, but then I got 3 letters, but all 3 letters have amounts and assessments on them, so I'm kind of confused.
You're being assessed the $84.92 per front foot for your frontage along 4th Avenue. You're being assessed $84.92 per front foot for that improvement as it wraps around the corner, it should be for like 11 feet, something like that, 14 feet.
So I am
Well
being
done.
assessed for all of that.
So that price, and for that, let's say it's 10 feet around, just wrapped around that corner where we fully reconstructed. You can charge $84.92 for 20% of that 10 feet, so you're getting charged for 2 feet of that 10 feet. And then the remaining frontage along that side is being assessed at $42.39, but only 20% of that frontage. And the back side was not calculated or assessed. So you're gonna have 3 assessments over 2 different rates. Any other questions?
Counselors have any questions or comments?
I would just like to make one more. What does the council think about this? Obviously, it costs less to put road in front of my house. I'm not, what's it cost for, concrete strip, 100-foot long, how much are they saving by not putting the curb in along my house, That's my question, obviously, it was cheaper to.
There's a price, we had a price kind of per foot for the curb and gutter in the beginning, but it was more of a rural, we could let that run off rather than curb and gutter it for the stormwater runoff. Is that correct?
Everything within the project is down to a big unit price, right? Every square foot of seed restoration, every lineal foot of curb, every square yard of pavement, every cubic yard of aggregate, it's all figured out. So yes, we have a price per front foot for curb. We also have a price per front foot for removal of existing curb, right?
Mhm.
We have a price per front foot for reclamation of existing asphalt. The reason that you do not have curb down there is because that roadway, that paved top surface is 22 feet. And by the time you put barrier curb there, it gets extremely, extremely tight. And because we have positive drainage and inslopes there to work with, we left it as a cross section. But yes, we have bid unit pricing for everything, including curb.
But we did not do the curb there to save a buck. We did it because the water flow was sufficient without a curb and gutter.
So if there's problems, the water sitting there, I should come and see you guys.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think that goes for anywhere in town. If they have a problem with the street, they come and they talk to Brian, right? I mean,
Thanks for coming tonight, Brian.
A couple things I'd like to just say quick, living on that street. As rough as it was before, it's nice to have a nice flat level street, but one thing that the bumps and stuff did was maybe slowed people down a little bit. That thing's nothing but a drag strip now coming down out of the golf course parking lot. I think they should possibly, whether it's put up some, you got a playground there with kids possibly in and out of vehicles. I'm not so sure there shouldn't, I hate to see a speed limit sign down through there, but just something to tell people to slow down wouldn't be a real bad idea. The other thing that really needs to go up there on the end down by the tennis court or whatever is a no outlet or no dead end sign, because I see trucks coming down there all the time thinking they're gonna sneak out of town and so there's a couple things like that. I definitely, the speed some people come down through there is pretty good clip. Now that it's nice and smooth, like I say, it's just about like a drag strip down through there. But but
Just remember, the speed limit in town is 30 miles an hour, and 30 miles an hour in a district like that seems extremely fast. So from an enforcement standpoint, it's gonna seem fast, but they're probably doing 30, maybe a little over 30. I'm not saying they're doing exactly 30.
With
And there are-
5 miles an hour, then they'll go 30.
State statute deems it 30 miles an hour. We
I-
can set it lower, but you're not gonna.
I think, I've read things on that, and I think the way to control that is if we should probably consider lining trees fairly close to the road. That slows people down, when you have more stuff in your view rather than wide open like it is.
And we put a 3-way stop sign there by the football field, where second comes into Fifth Street, Fourth Street.
Jesus, then I have everybody stopping in front of my house. Now
Well,
they,
it's better than having them walk it,
I know, but,
I think the kids gotta cross that street.
no, I know what you're saying, yeah.
Where we put the splash pad in Second Avenue Northwest is just as fast, so.
One last question. So how does it come into play with the amount of traffic? I know he touched on it briefly, but with the football field and the amount of traffic that's going to those like main businesses, I guess, if that's what you want to call it, between the park, the football field, the golf course, and all that, taking a hit on like some more of this versus the residents themselves, because
But that's kind of the purpose of the city paying 60%.
Well, not your commercial businesses pay a bigger footage
Mhm.
too, so.
Well, thank you, everybody, for the discussion. This is your last chance to do an appeal if you wish. And see nobody appealing. Other than those, yep. We will close the public hearing. Thank you. Anybody here for the public forum? Seeing none. Entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
I make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second for the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Stantec pay request, number 6.
Make a motion to pay request 6.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have some.
Okay.
Are we not gonna do anything that they were behind with it, or are we just gonna pay it? Or do we,
That's something the council will decide. It doesn't need to be decided right now.
okay,
They did submit, that letter for an extension. You guys tabled it, as I requested or asked you to. So yeah, you have the ability to charge liquidated damages, if you want to charge liquidated damages, but at this point, it would be my recommendation that you don't. But that is your option. That doesn't need to be done now.
What, do you have a date that they were like officially done for the season?
Yeah, I don't have it on top of my head, but I can send it over to Alyssa.
Yeah, I think they did a good job.
It was a long, every construction project sucks, right?
Mhm.
It was a long summer. They had some setbacks, none of them being the city's fault. But they did have some setbacks, but I think the last 3 weeks of construction, they really did a great job. And they got a whole lot accomplished in a really short window of time.
And you had mentioned that to actually enforce that or apply that, we would have to take them to court. Greg, what do you think of that?
Well, we're holding the money, so not necessarily, it would be up more of the burden on them probably to challenge us if we didn't pay them everything and held back some of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we could dig, if you felt inspired to consider it, I'd want to dig through the contract just to get a handle on those details. Before you even get there, I suppose one of the things you want to consider is it could have a chilling effect. That's maybe where Brett's comments come in of maybe not wanting to go there. I would just imagine it would cause them to hesitate on future projects, whether that's desired or not, for the community. So there's always those outside factors to consider too, beyond just what the contract says precisely.
I have had municipalities assess liquidated damages before, obviously. Usually when they assess liquidated damages, it's because of gross negligence by the contractor. It's them not even trying, it's them not showing up, not returning phone calls, not making progress. In an instance like this, their production rates for their utility installations weren't to par. They weren't what they should have been. I know they're not what they wanted them to be, which caused them to be behind. And I think once the utilities were in, you saw how quickly they could wrap this project up, and I think they did a good job doing that. We do have a contract that I can forward on to Greg. He can take a look at it. We do have the right to hold liquidated damages on a per day basis, a calendar day basis. I can tell you that you will have to go ahead and put it in this pay request. Most contractors will try to negotiate that down up front, and if they don't get very far there, they will take you to court over it. And I can tell you that if you go to court over it, a judge is going to they're gonna make you prove actual damages. Meaning not just, hey, the contract says we get $1,000 per day for every day you were over, and you're over 10 days, give us $10,000. The judge won't buy that, even though that's the contract they signed. So usually it's just not in the best interest of the city to do so, but we've got some counsel, if you choose and you think you should go after liquidated damages, that can be a choice. You can see that it's line item number 11 right here on the pay request. It can be added at any time.
The only thing I noticed, of course, I don't live on any of it, so, they obviously experienced maybe a little longer construction period than they thought it might be. But the one thing I thought is the seeding and the grass, that was delayed like everything else. So I think that's going to take more work than maybe they planned next spring to make sure that
Yeah, so
comes.
they end up having to do dormant seeding.
Okay.
Right, and I've had projects where dormant seeding comes in the spring, great. The projects where it doesn't come in so good, and then the contractor's struggling with it all spring. But they will be responsible for overseeding, for fertilizing, for reseeding, for everything. Just like they're responsible if there's cracked concrete in someone's driveway next spring, they're gonna be responsible to replace it. So.
And
there's a 2-year warranty on absolutely everything they're doing.
Okay.
So seeding is an issue, and they have to do some overseeding in the spring, which I'm sure they will do overseeding and fertilizing in the spring. But let's say it's just a spot where they just can't get seed to grow, and it's an issue in the spring of 2026, they still need to come back and address it. So we have a 2-year warranty on everything.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of the pay request, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I didn't quite hear Michael. Did he say yes?
He did
say aye.
I heard him come on.
Yes, I agree with that motion.
Okay. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, resolution 2414 to adopt the assessment roll. I'll make that a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
This would be the time if you want to make any changes to the assessment.
How many appeals do we have? One? Okay. All right, hearing no further discussion, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Downtown sewer discussion.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you, Brett. Is somebody addressing us?
So we have a few people
Okay.
from the businesses downtown. Becky had reached out and I believe Brian had reached out. So I wanted to be able to make sure that you guys knew that they wanted to talk about it.
Okay.
Can Becky approach?
Hi, my name is Becky Myers.
Becky, is Brian going to be speaking also, or are you?
Sit up there, yeah.
Okay,
Um,
so we get it all,
Yeah.
all done.
Okay, so I own a building downtown, 65 Main Avenue, B-Ball Boutique, and my property and the Brown's Restaurant share a sewer line, really cool.
Mhm.
And we were dealing with some sewer backups and went through a series of plumbers and a series of different things to try and get to the root of the problem. And ultimately, we're advised that we needed to dig, which nobody wants. So we did dig a hole and everything's fine. So then we dug another hole. The second hole, first one was on First Street Northwest, and the second one was in the middle of 139, where we determined that a section of our sewer pipe had kind of fallen away and was broken near the main. And it was also determined at that time that Brian's sewer for his building was broken as well. And I kind of think there's more to it too. And I might let Brian kind of take it from here so he can explain what our contractor told him he found when he was digging. Seems there's some space. Is that correct?
Yeah, he showed like when he dug right down the center of 139, straight down, he didn't want to basically close the whole highway off that day. He dug straight down like 10, 12 feet. And he said it was literally, sewers have been draining in there for quite a while.
Mhm.
And now there's a cavern basically on my side, and on that corner you can park a car in. It's a huge hole. And he said the only thing supporting it right now is an old layer of concrete, otherwise semi would probably go through it. So there is an issue. I don't know, we've been seeing state boys coming down, looking at it and scratching their head. I don't know if you guys have been informed on anything or. But
Well,
there's
it's-
also
Correct.
holes further up on
Mhm.
Blacktop that were filled in that Al said, that ain't water, that's probably sewer. Up in front of like Farm Charm and that, so there
Yeah,
is
there's-
issues on Main Drive.
So we were thinking this didn't feel like a straightforward, it's the property owner issue, and we wanted to bring it to council because we think maybe a bigger discussion needs to be had as far as.
We just basically, Al called me today and said each of our shares is $2,900, or at least mine was. I think these
Yeah,
guys
we have
might
more.
have a little more because there was more digging on their side, but we're just wondering, we gotta write a check today or what's gonna go with that?
I'm kind of wondering, so the street was patched, was that today?
Today.
Today.
Yeah. So, so the cavern was just left down there?
He basically, unless he dug up the whole main drag, that's further underneath. He doesn't know how far it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he could park a car in it.
And unfortunately, he couldn't be here today. He had sustained an injury and said he's not able to attend, but he did say he could be available, later to speak with you all about it, but.
He's got pictures and whatever.
Well, I would think if the sewers have been leaking, especially if your pipe was broke, so that wasn't getting to the main,
Theirs has been busted for quite a while, then finally
Right.
couldn't go, theirs created a cavern, that's why
Yeah.
mine kept flowing.
Mhm. And,
But he goes, it takes a long time for sewer to change dirt, and that was changed. It's been broke for a long time.
yeah, so it could be the broken sewer lines that caused the cavern, right?
Well,
I don't know, we're
no
in
way
cave
to know that.
country. Who knows?
Could be a sinkhole too, so.
Well, I think when they put the main in, they didn't leave a cavern there.
Well,
What was done when the main street was done?
when he got that pipe.
You,
from the
uh,
50s and 60s.
You know, I think it was in the eighties, they dug that up. I don't know if they put new main in there. Do you know when the main was put in Main Street? I know it was a large project in the eighties, did Main Street, closed all the businesses. The front entrances had walkways, but no driving or parking.
But yeah, he figured them things are at least 65 years old.
Yeah.
Something should have been done a while ago.
Well, we don't really fix mains unless they're
We
They're a
replace
problem.
mains, or we fix mains if we have to replace
Yep.
and fix mains, right? We don't dig up a street just to do it. We televise and jet and clean our sanitary sewers. Yearly, we have people here. We don't hit everywhere in town every year, but I'd say once every 8 to 10 years, every sewer main is televised. And
Have you been advised of this? Because you're like the
Yeah.
engineer for the city.
Yep, and I met with Brian and 3 or 4 guys from MinDOT up there the other day.
What are they saying? Anything yet? Or
Well,
Nothing yet, but ultimately, so we've televised the main, and there's no issues with the main.
so that's what I'm saying. The main, you know, your pipes broke and caused running, you know, like my sewer's working fine. Well, it's not going in the main where it's supposed to go. So that did need to get repaired. It sounded like it was. If we televise the main, you know, we're gonna see where the pipes come in, but we're not gonna know that water's not coming in there, sewage not coming in there. So we wouldn't see your broken pipes, which are coming in from above, right? We wouldn't see that in the,
We can see where the services enter the main.
Yeah.
My understanding is that your services were sheared at the top.
You mentioned them being vertically stacked, and I don't think that what that means in relation to this, so.
Your sewer there is what, 16 feet deep?
Yeah, at least.
16 to 18 feet deep. If you look at that sewage just north of you guys still goes to the south. And so you can see there's a hill in Main Street right there. So the sewer is very deep right in front of you. And so when the sewer is that deep, you know, it only needs to be so deep to serve the properties that are right next, adjacent to it. And so there's a riser on it. So that they didn't have to go, let's say it's 18 feet deep in the center of the road. They didn't run that pipe 18 feet deep all the way over to your guys' basements and then come up. They come up off of the main and then come over a shallower distance, or shallower.
and you wouldn't
Miller
want, you
Service
wouldn't
and
want your
Pines.
sewer
Is the
that
whole
deep.
Main Street, everybody running to the main, or is any going off the back alleyway?
They're all going off the main. Oh, okay. Yeah. But so my understanding from what I had heard Al tell Brian, I haven't talked to Al, is that your services were sheared off at the top of those vertical risers.
Oh, okay.
So where it makes the turn to go down is where you're saying it was shut.
Yeah, so it's sheared off right there. And so then every time water comes down there, sewer service, it's not getting in that riser and down into the pipe. It's running and churning and running and churning. And so, like I said, there's nothing the city can see in the main. The main looks to be in good condition for its age and stuff like that. We did talk to MinDOT. They don't know what's underneath any more than we do unless we dug it up, right? They do know what Al saw. They are concerned about it. They're concerned about the hole that's just to the south of that they keep patching and it keeps going away. We asked them, 139 is not on their 5-year or 10-year capital improvement plan. And we asked that they consider putting 139 on their capital improvement plan. The city can't afford to reconstruct, even though it's the main street, right? It's also Trunk Highway 139. And so the state needs to be a willing partner in that reconstruct. And not only a willing partner, but a driver for that. Like the city is interested in participating and being a partner with MnDOT to get Main Street taken care of.
So like, I think my line, does anybody have a map of my line? Where it goes?
There's no maps of services, no
Okay.
map of our main.
So Al said he could scope mine or whatever, so if mine goes out the side of my building on the north side and then runs out to the center, is that, if it's old clay, then I can get that line?
Yes.
So that's my responsibility to do that.
So you can get that line, if you heard me talk about the CIPP liner that we did, you can do the same thing with the service line.
But anyway, until then, we're wondering, this bill that's coming about that we're told we owe.
Yeah, the way I look at it, it's your service line. If, anybody else's service line happens all around town. You see, we have to dig up the street and, the street has to get back to the way we want it as a city, but the homeowners pay for those. So,
Like immediately do upon receipt, or as soon as we get a bill in the mail or what?
I think, is Al billing you direct?
Yeah.
So that would be my guess, it's between you and Al. That's what he did with my service when I had mine done. So,
is that something we can pay and put a special assessment on them if they wish? I think we could.
If the council would wish to, they can do that. I have had councils do obviously nothing's exactly like this, but I have had councils, especially when they're going through a special assessment like this right now, allow the type of financing that you are approving for everybody else in town.
Yeah, because I got 3 letters already.
Yeah.
If you chose to do so and you had enough money in your bonding, which you do, what you would need to do is you would need 3 property owners to sign waivers so that they can't appeal, because we have not gone through the Chapter 429 process. So they would have to waive their right to appeal, and then you could offer them the same financing. You could offer them 15 years, a 5% interest rate on top of it, should you want to finance it.
And that's
Where
something.
does 5% come from? When I used to be on council in Fountain, it was always like 0.5 to 1.5 for government stuff.
Member rates were lower then?
Most of my cities,
I
I
think you
believe,
know where
Harvey's
it came
one
from.
is 1% above what they borrow for.
Yep.
So
That's
if
what
they're
our
borrowing,
government money's borrowing for, that's what you
if
get.
they're borrowing for 4%, then they charge 5%. Yeah. And the extra percent isn't for the city of Harmony to make money. There's obviously bonding costs and administrative costs over the next 15 years.
And part of that is when someone pays off early, then we get that money sooner, but we paid for in the bonding.
So does that have to be a motion then that we would say, give them that?
Yeah, if the council wants to consider that, that's something they can do.
Oh, you don't have, Brian, do you have the bill or not? You were just told what the bill
He
is?
hasn't done one
Okay,
yet.
so we just table it?
No, well,
he can't finalize it until he gets his bill from his blacktop guy. That just happened today, so.
Yeah.
I think we could make a motion to allow that to be put on special assessments if they wish, up to the amount that the charges are.
If the council decides to do that, I would suggest that you decide the terms right now so that you can get it on the 2025 tax roll, right?
Yeah.
Because if you table it for a month, the city's gonna eat that financing for all of 2025. It's not gonna come to their tax.
So that motion could just state the same terms as the current assessment plan.
Did Al tell you, Becky, how much your cost was roughly gonna be? I know it's not finalized, I'm not gonna hold you to that, but.
It's not finalized, but let me take a look. He had it at, and again, this is not finalized because he hasn't gotten bills from his asphalt.
Correct.
But it was, the hole on 139 was about 8,700. And then the other hole on the side street was a little over 4,000, so about, I think it was like 4,150. So the 4,150 one, I think, one was me and you guys. exploratory surgery.
Yeah, so I think we could make a motion to let those amounts have the same terms as the current assessment project.
Contingent on them signing
A waiver.
a waiver.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to allow them to get the same financing pending them signing a waiver and as our current assessment.
And that works like other assessments. Anytime you want to pay it off, you can pay it off and avoid the interest. Okay, we have motion and a second. Any more discussion?
No, I guess just keep us in the loop if you hear any more.
I'm sure there'll be more progress on your
Put the holes in it.
on your down business, Brian.
Okay, hearing no further discussion, we'll call for a vote on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. You're
So I
welcome.
would say when you guys get your bill, just make sure Alyssa gets it so that we can get that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
EDA. It's our chamber agreement. Does the council approve that too?
The only thing that I would say that I have concerns with is the property maintenance and upkeep. It seems rather interesting that we provide a room and utilities, and there's kind of some, I don't want to call them demands, but some expectations set forth in here. That I don't know that we need that portion because most of it's being done currently.
If I may, last winter, the city EDA and chamber had some meetings, just to make sure we were all on the same page about the chamber's role in the community and just the use of that space. So it was discussed that we should have a contract, just something we can update and have there, just so expectations are managed for all of us. And, yeah, most of the system is already being done. So it's not demands. Christie's not given us a, like a sample draft of another community's. So this has been tweaked to just be applicable to us. There's very little on here that is new. The Historical Society, we did include them in this because they actually use more of that building than we do. So we felt like they should have a hand in saying for that too. But yeah, really, it's not new demands or anything like that. It's what the agreement.
Was your concern a particular,
It's kind of sterile writing, you know, at this agreement, it is stuff that's already being done. But it also states in there what you guys are doing for the chamber and historical society. It recognizes all that you guys, that the city is doing for us to perform our duties and to represent the city as well.
yeah,
You know,
Jesse,
that-
did you have a particular item or a whole section that you,
Just the whole property maintenance and upkeep, that whole section of that. As far as the contract, which is the top portion that we sign. Now I lost my page and it's 30 pages down.
the only item I noticed was they put in that the floor waxing should happen in their off-season instead of during the time when lots of people are coming in to have it closed for a week.
Except that it contradicts itself because it says that you have to have it open November 1st through April 8 to 4.
So the building
should actually be open for people to use. We just won't have it staffed as the visitor center, except for from May through, well.
So what
April
if,
through October.
Their office section, but the bathrooms are open for,
do we have to allow them to be open? I'm just-
no,
This is a
we
question.
don't have to have a
So-
visitor center either.
Well, I know, but
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
in this, and that's why I'm saying, if we tie ourselves to this, not saying that you guys are gonna come after us, but there's a lot of things in here that are stated, and I'm not saying demands or anything like that. There's another one in here that says we should paint the building interior every 5 years.
And these are just general kind of landlord type things. This is a starting point. If there are things that should be tweaked, I mean, a contract is really just a statement between parties. And so if there's something that we should be changing, then let's do that. But it wasn't intended to make demands. It was just, hey, here's what you guys are already doing. Here's what our expectations are. Just so we're all on the same page. That's
Correct. I
all
think
this is.
if you want to do that, we're providing you an area at no rent and no utilities, plus 30,000.
I know, and we do recognize that. You know, I would have looked at, if you guys were to sell that building and we would collect, the city was to be able to collect property taxes, that'd be a nice chunk of money. And yes, it's not only is it utilities and rent-free, but it's also insurance is being on that property. And you're also providing maintenance through the workers, which is costing you as well. So we recognize all that. But we're, you know, and we're just the volunteers being asked to drop a contract, and that's what we did. It wasn't a demand, it was just stating the facts. And we are very aware of what's being provided, and we're providing our time as well. You know, so to try to make this all work, so there is no questions. And by no means was it a demand type of property and maintenance. It was just to state the facts of what's all there going on. And it should be tweaked. That's not a problem.
Yeah, so what would you like to see? You just
don't
want to
think-
X off a section?
I don't think we need it. In my opinion, I don't think we need that portion of it. I think everything else prior to that is fine. We're doing it. I guess I don't know why we need to.
You want to leave it to our decision and our best ability
Correct.
rather than
Yes.
in a contract, yeah.
Yes.
Could we then put in the contract who we voice our concerns to about things that should be done or that aren't getting done, or?
I think you already
we'd have
do
to
that.
do it on the agenda rather than call
Well,
someone. and-
you're gonna call Alyssa like you do anyway.
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, it would be good for us to be able to communicate to the community what the hours are for the visitor center, for the building to just be locked, or for our key fobs to just suddenly be turned off. That's information we need ahead of time. And so something that's in writing, so everybody's on the same page, does benefit everybody. We're not asking for crazy things, it's just to have an agreement. It doesn't have to be this agreement, but an agreement of what the rules are gonna be. So we
Yeah.
can communicate that to the community. We have a Facebook page, we have people coming to us all the time asking information, and time has changed for the visitor center to be locked, so we can't get payments that we need, or visitors can't use the bathroom because they thought they could, but it's just suddenly changed. So we do need some sort of
I like the
agreement. Doesn't have to
calendar.
be this one,
Yeah.
but we were asked to come up with one, and this is what we came up with.
And we were also drafting it with the idea that this board may not exist, the same people on this board may not exist a year from now.
Correct.
And one of the things that we found during this whole transition the last couple of years is that we had no basis to go on just about anything. You know, we were kind of lost as to, you know, what expectations were from us.
City council
Even just within the
changes,
chamber
EDA.
business itself. So we're just trying to document everything and list everything so that whomever comes after us they could just go to a filing cabinet or it's online and there it is, boom, all the information is there. And that's all that this was about. So that property maintenance act can certainly be deleted, but it wasn't a demand type thing so much as just letting whomever comes after us to know what expectations are of them, because there's expectations that we give ourselves in that area too, in the property maintenance of what our responsibilities are as far as housekeeping and keeping up on stuff. And so, it's for both parties, all three parties. But it was mostly written for whomever comes after us as information.
And we were asked to do this.
Yeah, we were.
So
You were asked to provide a contract.
we were asked to provide a contract.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I'm not arguing
exhibit
that.
in that property maintenance was just, we put it in there as part of the contract. If you don't like that, that's fine.
That's good.
Well, I'm just wondering if we can tweak it to the satisfaction of both
If you
now.
wanna, here's what I'm
We
gonna
have to
say.
go back and to the drawing board.
If you want to get nitty gritty and go more like a landlord tenant issue with this, then let's spell out what the value is of the utilities, in lieu of rent. I mean, we can go endlessly if we want to. I'm just saying.
I already know what the value is. I looked up the property value of that building, and I also I had the staff print out copies of me. I know exactly how much you guys are spending on utilities, insurance, the amount that you have out for labor on that, as far as that. Yes, it's up there. Guaranteed. We are not disputing that at all. But we were asked to drop a contract, did not mean it to be adversarial as far as what the city is contributing to this endeavor of the chamber. And we by no means don't diminish at all what the city is doing for this chamber and the historical society. So, I mean, if when we were asked to drop the contract,
Okay,
I didn't think it was gonna come to this,
yeah.
but,
So I think we should either make a few changes to the one we have in front of us and see if we can pass that. And then I think if we did that, it'd go back to them to sign it.
Yeah, if it's made
If-
changes, it's,
Or we can table this and we can all write our suggestions to the chamber, what we'd like to see different in it. And then they could come back to us again. Or we can just spell out a couple things in this one, a couple changes that we could vote on and agree on. And
The contract itself, which is the top 2 pages, you would just take out Exhibit A out of that language, because I think, well, and you wouldn't even take out Exhibit A necessarily, because I think the first part of Exhibit A is great. It needs to be there. I think that's the expectations of what you're providing us with that, with your service. To me, it just really boils down to property and maintenance. I just don't know that we need to spell it out. Maybe we do. Maybe later on we do. I'm not saying.
I
don't
think
take
the
this
hours
wrong.
of operation make sense, don't they? You don't like
They're
that
all-
part of it?
They're always subject to change. And we can change them at any time. If you lock this in, I don't know.
There are weeks that needs to be shut for maintenance. I mean, it's just, if he has to do the floors a week, the doors have to be locked. People can't be in there.
Right, and I think that in
So do we-
this agreement, they're asking that to be done off-season. Is that
Correct.
possible?
From 8 to 4.
Sure.
Yeah.
But maybe the
Make
city
explicit
should
exception.
communicate when they're going to close the building to us. I know for the floor waxing, Terry always tells us, it's gonna be closed this 3rd week that you're open for a full week, so you can't be there. But it'd be be awfully nice if it could happen during the 5 months we're closed, but if there are other issues that come up, you know, it has to be closed because this thing happens. If there's no way that it can be done during the off season, then if we could be told, like,
Well, I think, yeah,
this makes, I think it makes sense
I
to
don't-
have regular
But the hours in
hours.
there that we're gonna be closed was about when the chamber is gonna be closed, the historic society. We were not determining when the city was gonna close the building. Cause it's the city who determines who allows access for visitors into the bathroom. That's not on us.
well, actually, let's hypothetically here, okay?
Right.
You guys have access to your portion of the building from the east side, correct?
Two of us do.
Okay, but you can unlock that, can we unlock that? I don't know the answer to that.
It can be unlocked.
Okay, and then they would have access,
If you have it for the one person who has a key.
correct? No, I think part of a good working relationship and the key thing, that's a topic for a different discussion, but can be worked on. Or do we just set the regular hours, the May through September? And we don't, it's November 1st through, I guess where I'm going is November 1st through April are as necessary, because you guys aren't typically there and
Our staff member is there part-time. And the History Center, well, the center's closed, but the Historic
Correct.
Society has meetings, the Lions have meetings. Some of us have meetings there. But
but you still have
visitors,
access.
we do get people coming here year-round, and they go in to take information from the hallway and to use the restrooms, and then the phone gets used sometimes there too. So people
But I
do
think
use
that's
it.
okay. That's okay to have a week where it's closed when it's just intermittent traffic through
When-
the.
And
when
that's
it's
what we-
off season.
off-season.
And then it-
Absolutely off.
Yep.
Yeah, like, we're not saying just because these hours are here, it can't be closed a week during the off-season for maintenance, or if some emergency happens, for it to be closed for a week during peak season, if it's an emergency. We
Well,
just need to have some sort of
During
set
peak
hours
season
that make
makes
sense,
sense.
and if these don't make sense, then.
I think
let's figure it out.
the May through October makes sense. And I get where you're coming from for the other portion of it.
Is that door open till 8 PM now, or is it just 6?
No, I think it's actually 4. I'm not
Well,
sure.
at
It
this-
changes all the time, so.
It shouldn't, it's a program door.
Yeah, it should be programmed.
And I don't think that's, no, it's,
Terry programs it,
but
yeah.
it's been programmed. I don't think he's touched it.
I don't think so,
I
no.
don't- We don't know what it is.
Is there much traffic that late? 8 seems a little late to me, but
So in the summer, when it's still light out, yeah, there's still people coming through. It's not a huge amount of people, but people do come through. And like I said, we can tweak this. People don't come through. okay,
I sit on my porch and watch
Just
it.
Nobody comes through the door. So if
I would say
things don't
6,
work,
7
then
is
we change it.
And it's for the bathroom.
for the
Sometimes
summer,
it
yes.
takes a
But
little
Terry
bit.
does change it. It was 7 or 8, whatever it was, and then now it's 5 or something, and daylight savings time goes off. He changes it, I believe, that hour, so.
Let's bring it back for discussion. Let's do
Table.
table it and bring it back for discussion.
Okay, we have a motion to table this. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. So now we have discussion. So I think we should have a week, a week forward.
He's getting ready to vote, probably. I'm guessing.
Sorry, one second here. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
yeah.
So is the next step for city council members to look at the contract themselves and make revisions?
Yeah, I would say to bring it back to, and we probably should have the revisions done so that the chamber can review them before we make a final decision on this, so you're informed, and you know what we're kind of looking at. When do you guys meet next?
Tuesday is our board meeting.
Because if you guys submitted the revisions, I can get them done.
I don't know that we can
Have
get
a,
them.
hopefully get another draft back to you.
And we can vote via email, that's something the chamber gets to do, so we can communicate that way if,
So our next meeting appears to be the 10th of December. Well,
Do you want to take this on as the utility committee and go through with it with the tweaks you want, communicate that with them? If they say bills look fine to us, or we'd like you to try this or that, you come to an agreement, we could do it at the next meeting.
Yeah, I think that my next question is does the EDA want any type of peek at it?
I don't know if.
We
EDA
looked at
people-
it, we didn't have
we didn't give
comment.
it near this kind of thought because just we like the spirit of following through on getting something in writing. So
Yeah.
we could be an opportunity to hash out details with the chamber at our next meeting because that would happen for the council meeting. So I would say if that's helpful to the process, great. If not, if that's just an extra step, probably doesn't matter.
Yeah, if you as a utility committee could have your parts of that you want changed. Yeah.
It's kind of odd to have the renter write the contract. So I mean, that was, puts us at a kind of a disadvantage to write a contract that the owner
Right.
should be happy with, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
I think we agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Is that clear as mud?
so when are we getting?
So there, the utility
Might not get
committee,
it before your meeting, but we will have it to you in time to make a decision before our next council meeting. So
let's say before the EDA meeting,
Yeah.
have it for the
yes,
EDA
when
meeting,
is the EDA?
the Thursday
first
before the council.
Thursday of the month.
Fifth? So we would have it to you and
Might as well.
the EDA before December.
Yep. At least I think the EDA would make a recommendation again to the council and all right. We'll call for a vote. All in favor of tabling this, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And Resolution 2415 certifying election results. Is the canvassing all done?
So the canvassing is actually
In
happening.
process?
So in the second page is going to show you what we've gotten from off the Office of Minnesota Secretary of State, which was provided the same 4 years ago. As far as that's how it was presented. The canvassing is actually not going to happen for Fillmore County until tomorrow, but the deadline is Friday to have these in.
We are all canvassing.
But we are.
That's my read on it. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So we do
So
our
you
own
guys,
canvassing for our election.
you guys verify the results by passing this resolution essentially.
Good. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2415.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion?
Hey, who said second, Kyle or Jesse? Jesse, thank you.
Did you have a discussion, Michael?
No.
Okay. All right. Hearing no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Judge Alyssa. And who are the other judges?
So Stephanie was also a head judge, and then the morning shift, we had Eileen and Diane Hanlon. And then the afternoon shift, we had Karen Apenhorst from the office here. And then we also had Kathy Tesmer help us out. So
Good. Well, thank you to the whole crew. That was a long task, I know. Audit service discussion.
So, I don't don't even know if my mic is on anymore here, but I
Yep,
think it is.
it's working.
Okay, so we received a letter from Abdo last Friday, and unfortunately, they are not going to be doing our audit for 2024. Now, they're going to help us kind of gather the timeline and with that situation, you know, just helping me gather the right information, telling me what to get this fall. But as far as for 2024 audit, we are going to have to look at a new vendor. Now, Abdo did provide me with a list. So I do have a list of different vendor options, as well as I did put out in, the LMC has, and I always get this wrong, but LMC has where you can put out an email or put out
List
like an
serve.
auditing services.
Mhm.
And I did get that filled out, so that's already on there too. So I'm looking for proposals from other vendors that are interested in doing our audit.
The other option is we could just approach Smith Schaefer, who did it before Abdu.
Yes.
Well, if you want
Probably should.
proposals, you could, that's one way to try to solicit it.
Still solicit directly to Smith Schaefer.
Yeah,
I did reach out to Smith Schaefer today just to see if they even had the capacity to take us on, if that's what we decided to go with, and they are interested.
open.
Yeah, they're open to that, so.
So, and I think they're well accustomed to finding and replying to the RFP along with others. And so I'd asked you to check and see if in the RFP, do we state that we're open to like a 1-year agreement or a 3-year agreement or?
It depends on whatever we choose to do. The other ads that are out there, it varies. Some
Okay.
are just 1 year, some are 3, some are 5.
Did we have an agreement with Abdo?
We did,
We did, and it lapsed. They just agreed to go year.
yep, we had a 3-year
I
agreement
was gonna
in the
say, I
beginning.
thought we had 3
Yep.
years.
Yep, we started with 3-year agreement and then went year to year. And I think we could make that optional, that people could propose either a 3 or a 1 or both, and we would just pick between what we wanted.
I would make a motion to do an RFP for audit services. They can submit proposals for a 1-year agreement up to a 3-year agreement.
A second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Anything from the building and maintenance or wastewater? Okay. EDA board?
I could give a quick update to say we closed on the sale of that lot to Minor Holdings, and have another party talking about interest in a lot next door to that. So we're looking forward to more to come on that conversation, hopefully in the next month or two. I think that was probably all. Bike trail. Oh, it sounds like they did select a winning bidder on the second phase. Fitzgerald.
Different.
is that right?
Fitzgerald.
Yeah. So different than the first phase. Haven't heard a lot from the DNR directly, but I think Alyssa and or Megan had an upcoming meeting with them too. So
Yep, next week.
Oh, and yeah, did get a couple of submissions on the downtown grant program. Did not review or decide on that. That's coming up at our December meeting. And then there'd be a recommendation presumably to the council on that later.
And did we discuss Christmas lights on Main Street at the EDA? I thought we did.
Not this past meeting.
Huh?
Not this last
We
meeting.
didn't? Okay. What's that? I think we have them.
We We have, yes, so we should have the white, they're white, right?
Snowflakes. Yep.
Well, we have the snowflakes that, we have the lights that go on the bracket on the pole, and then we have lights to go around.
Oh, yeah, yeah, okay.
They're going on Friday, so you're gonna change something.
Too late.
You're early this year. You're gonna do it while it's warm for once?
Yes. The other one is red.
We haven't even eaten a turkey.
I want to get it done once.
Turkey first.
We're down this like.
Oh, the chamber's still here.
They don't want anything to do with the lights. They're ours.
Lights are done.
All right, chamber. I didn't skip over you this time.
Planning is underway for holidays, and we need breakfast, Santa, and the tree lighting, so
Mhm.
that is busy.
Anything about the house contest for Christmas?
So that's a city arts board thing.
That's an arts board, yes.
I'm anxious.
You're
Thank
just,
you.
you're disqualified.
No Christmas lights on giraffes this year?
There's gonna be this year.
Have you checked the zoning rules on this?
You're probably gonna have a zoning meeting regarding that.
Haven't yet.
All right, park board,
Did not meet.
library board.
No updates from library, but a few updates from Parks Board, the lighting being one of them.
Oh, good.
The lighting contest is happening, starting on Friday, December 6th. The Arts Board will judge after 6 p.m. The winners will be announced at the Friday, the day after, at Salt Lake Park at the tree lighting. So you can find that as well. There'll be 3 winners this year. Each winner receives $150, Harmony dollars. And the themes are Winter Wonderland regarding wildlife specifically. Candy cane is another theme, and notable holiday figures is the third theme. We are also doing a paint your pet event. That is on November 21st from 6 to 8 p.m. at the community center. As of Sunday, a couple days ago, 17 spots are filled out and 20 of them are available. So if anyone else is interested, there's only 3 spots available, maybe unless they've filled up. But you can email the Harmony Arts Board. It's on the city website. If you'd like to mention it on that. And then we do have two interested folks to join Arts Board as well, because we have an opening for the teacher position as well as the student rep. We would like to have Sarah Hutchinson, a high school arts teacher, join the Arts Board, and Gracie Whalen as a student rep. So both of those could get approved by council tonight. We entertain a motion to have them join us.
So I didn't quite catch that.
I'll
You're,
make a motion for the 2 recommended by the Arts Board.
okay. And did you hear the names, Lisa?
Sarah Hutchinson and Gracie Whalen.
Okay. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And that is all from the Arts Board.
Good. Anything from the fire department? Sheriff's report? I don't think we got one, did we?
Yep, it's in there.
Oh, it is there.
Just scroll right through.
But that the
Okay.
agenda we added financial and on there too.
Oh, yeah. Monster Bash. I can talk to that, revisit that from our last meeting real quick if you guys may. So
Yes.
if you recall with Monster Bash's request for variance, there was a lot of discussion at last meeting. You ultimately decided to approve it conditioned upon Monster Bash buying 10 feet off of the neighboring John and Jackie Ryan property. When we went to go start that, I guess I was confused myself because 10 feet would cut into their building. And so we didn't want to create a new problem by all of a sudden having a building encroachment. And so I believe Jay has since measured more specifically, and were you there, Jesse, with him when he measured?
Him and I talked about it. I had measured it after our meeting.
Okay.
After it had been brought to my attention.
He was telling me he thinks it's 8.5 feet.
It's about 8.5 feet.
Okay.
From the pen, from his corner pen to the edge of John and Jackie's building, which when that was built was probably within a 6-foot setback.
Right. Kept at least 6 feet back. Yeah. Yeah. So the closest, the most we could do, Monster Bash could do, the city would want to allow Monster Bash to do would be 8.5 feet. So you don't, so it's possible, I guess. So the issue before the council, you approved him buying 10 feet. Is 8.5 sufficient? If so, probably worth amending the approval or reapproving. That just makes the variance ends up being another 1.5 feet more than it was before.
So we called it a 10-foot variance, allowing them to go within 10 or to 10. And now we would, I will make a motion to amend that to an 8.5-foot variance.
Or the condition would be that he buys 8.5, that Monster Bash buys 8.5 feet instead of 10. I think, right?
Okay.
If you want to match up the language and approval from last
Yeah,
time.
the discussion that Jay and I had, I don't know what he's actually buying. At one point, he talked about just doing the 8.5 feet up to that building and then kind of and making it the rest of it 10 outside of the building or somewhere outside that building. This kind of discussion I had with him. Now, I don't know if that's changed.
Okay.
I think that'd be difficult to have the property because oh, you mean buying 8.5 feet through the building and then the rest of it he would buy 10?
Yeah, where it jets back, where the building comes back, a portion of that somewhere would come back to that 10 feet.
Does that work?
It could be done. That would take it up a level to having a surveyor come out probably, because then you're carving that. We need to know the measurements of that bump out.
Mhm.
So
That was just a discussion.
yeah. So that could it be done that way? Yes. It's higher costs to the property owner. So that's the trade-off. But I guess the big takeaway is the way it was approved last time just isn't feasible in reality.
So yeah, and I think that if we do the 8.5, that's still going to allow him to build to where he wants to straight across.
I think that's what he's thinking is either way going to his current property line. So
Correct.
it'd be 8.5 feet from building to building instead of 10 feet from building to building. Or whatever people assumed last time.
So if we do, did you make that motion?
I did, but then he said I should rephrase it a little.
Suggesting, yeah.
So
Yeah,
what would it be if I want the 8.5-foot variance?
You'd want a motion to approve the variance where he can build up to his existing property line on the condition that he buy 8.5 feet from Ryan's instead of the 10 that was previously approved.
That's my motion.
Yeah.
Second.
Motion the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So our special meeting for the 19th is set, or do we have to make the motion tonight?
It's set. It was just a reminder for you guys.
Put that in my calendar so I don't go on vacation. All right. Anybody have anything else for a meeting? Well, I have one thing. So if we do that RFP, you're thinking that would go out electronically?
That's on the LMC website?
Yeah, yep.
Yes.
I'm wondering if we might have that available to put it on the agenda for the 19th? to,
Like what
it-
that looks like, you mean, or?
to look at what's come in and possibly choose.
Sure.
So you want to set the deadline to have it RFPs back by the 19th, I guess, is that?
That's a
what you're-
pretty.
Yeah, yeah. So we could look at it and we wouldn't have to make the decision that night, but
It's only a week. Is that
Yeah.
enough time? It hasn't been pushed out yet, has it?
yeah,
Right.
So let's, yeah, let's just do it for the 10th.
Okay. Yep.
In addition to put on the league, you might want to specifically mail it or to the ones that Abdo mentioned.
I can.
Just make sure they see it.
Yep.
Or anybody else you find
Yep.
or think of, just send it to them directly too.
So you want the deadline to be December 10th?
Let's make the deadline.
The Friday
December-
before.
Yeah, the Friday before by 4:30. Office
Okay.
closing.
that way we could have,
Sixth.
then you could put them in our agenda packet.
Okay. All right. Is there anything specific? I know when I talked to Smith, I can't remember.
Schaefer.
Sorry, yes, Smith Schaefer. They had asked me like specifically if we needed anything, and I said, they said that they could send us like a 2 or 3 page like quick bio of everybody, or they could send us a 13 to 15 page financial. And I was like, yep, I want the big one. I want it. I want all the figures. So that's what they were gonna send us.
Yeah, we just, I mean, really, at this point, I think it's costing what you're gonna do for us.
Yeah.
So, whatever
Okay.
that equates to.
Okay. I will get that out. Yeah, it's ready to go for LMC, and then as far as, I'll go ahead and email it to that list of members as well.
Good. All right. Anybody else have anything for our meeting? Okay, hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hi, see ya.
See ya, Mike.
Oh, there you go.